everyone wants a big life, a bigger income, a bigger impact, a bigger legacy. But here's the truth no one likes to hear. Most people never start because they're waiting for the perfect moment. Listen closely. You don't need a perfect moment. You need a first step. Dream big. Yes. But the future you want is built one small step at a time. $1 saved. 10 pages read. One lap walked. One promise kept. This is how the millionaire mindset is forged. Not in fireworks, but in success habits, repeated daily. Not in luck, but in self-discipline. Not overnight, but through consistency and time. Ask yourself, what's the smallest action I can take today that moves me forward? Because small steps compound. They build momentum. Momentum builds belief, and belief transforms a dream into a plan, and a plan into results. So, if you're tired of waiting, tired of wishing, tired of someday, this is your line in the sand. In this video, I'll show you how to keep the big vision while mastering the small steps that create wealth, health, and lasting growth. No hype, no excuses, just a roadmap you can use today. Dream big, begin small, repeat daily, and watch the compound effect turn ordinary days into an extraordinary life. Ready? Let's take the first step now. Every human being is born with a rare and priceless gift, the ability to dream. Think about that for a moment. A bird never dreams of building a business. A cow never dreams of traveling the world. But you and I, we have the power to imagine futures that don't yet exist. We can close our eyes, picture possibilities, and design a vision of who we want to become. That's extraordinary. That's the gift of being human. And dreaming is powerful. A dream is the fire that stirs your spirit, the vision that pulls you out of bed in the morning. It's the whisper in your mind that says, there's more for me. My life can be bigger, brighter, better, without a dream. Life shrinks into routine. Without a dream, people drift. But with a dream, even an ordinary life begins to feel extraordinary. Yet here's the paradox. While dreaming is beautiful, it can also become dangerous if it never leads to action. I've met countless people who carry magnificent dreams in their hearts. They dream of building wealth. They dream of traveling across the world. They dream of writing books, starting businesses, leaving a legacy. Their vision is vivid, but their feet are frozen. They keep staring at the horizon, waiting for the perfect moment to begin. And as they stare, the horizon keeps moving farther away. Maybe you felt this. You have a picture in your mind of where you want to go, but you don't know how to take the first step. And because the first step seems small, almost too small to matter, you hesitate. You tell yourself, $1 won't make me wealthy. One workout won't transform my health. One conversation won't heal my relationship. And so, instead of beginning, you postpone it. Tomorrow, next week, next year, until the dream that once inspired you becomes the very thing that frustrates you. This is why so many dreams die. Not because they were impossible, but because the dreamer never began. Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with having a big dream. In fact, you must dream big. Without a big dream, you'll never stretch beyond what's comfortable. Without a vision, you'll never have a reason to endure difficulty. But a dream alone is not enough. Think of success like a ladder. At the top of the ladder is your vision, the life you want, the wealth you desire, the impact you hope to make. But you cannot leap from the ground to the top rung. You have to start at the bottom. And here's the beautiful design of life. The first rung of the ladder is always close to the ground. It's never out of reach. Life doesn't ask you to leap into greatness overnight. It asks you to start where you are, with what you have, and to take one small step. That's how dreams begin to materialize. A young man once asked me, "How do I eat an elephant?" The answer is simple. One bite at a time. And how do you run a marathon step by step? The same principle applies to every great achievement. Wealth is not built in a day. Wisdom is not acquired overnight. Health is not transformed in a week. But all of them can begin today with one small, deliberate action. Here's the real dividing line. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. It's easy to save $1, but it's also easy to spend it. It's easy to read 10 pages, but it's also easy to put the book down. It's easy to go for a walk, but it's also easy to stay on the couch. The difference between a life of success and a life of regret often comes down to these small decisions, repeated daily. This is why the beginning matters so much. The first step may not look impressive to the world, but it's a declaration to yourself. I am serious about my dream, and once you take that first step, something powerful happens. You build momentum, and momentum is priceless. The moment you start moving, even slightly, you begin to feel different. You gain confidence. You taste progress. And suddenly, the dream no longer feels unreachable. It feels possible. You start to believe again. So, if you have a big dream, and I hope you do remember this, the miracle begins small. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't curse the little steps, because those little steps, repeated with consistency, are what transform fantasy into reality. Dream big, but begin small. That's the law. We live in a world full of dreamers. You can hear it everywhere. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to write my book. One day I'll be wealthy. One day I'll be free. The words sound inspiring. The vision sounds noble. But here's the hard truth. Most of those dreams never leave the dreamer's mind. They remain locked in imagination, untouched by action. Why? Because dreaming is easy. Starting is not. Dreaming feels good. It gives you a rush of energy, like tasting the future before it's real. You can sit with your eyes closed and picture the house, the lifestyle, the success, and for a moment, you feel as if you already own it. That's why people love to dream. It's exciting, effortless, intoxicating. But beginning, that feels small. That feels ordinary. And ordinary doesn't feel exciting. So people keep dreaming, but they never start. I call this the trap of dreamers. And it is one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. Here's how it works. You dream of building wealth, but the first step is saving $1. $1 feels too small. You dismiss it. You say, that won't make a difference. And so you don't save it. You dream of getting fit, but the first step is going for a short walk. A short walk feels too easy. It feels almost embarrassing. So you tell yourself, I'll start when I have more time. I'll start when I join a gym. And so you never take the walk. You dream of building better relationships. But the first step is a phone call, a text message, a small act of kindness, that feels so minor that you underestimate it. You tell yourself, they won't notice, and so the relationship remains weak, waiting for a dramatic breakthrough that never comes. Do you see the trap? People overestimate the dream and underestimate the step. Let's break this down further. There are usually two reasons people never begin. Reason one, they undervalue the small action. They believe small equals insignificant. They forget that every oak tree began as a seed. They forget that every mountain climb begins with one step. They want the harvest, but they despise the seed. And because they despise the seed, they never plant it. Reason two, they overestimate the size of the challenge. They look at the entire mountain and say, it's too high. I could never climb that. They see the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And the gap feels overwhelming. They paralyze themselves by staring at the distance instead of focusing on the next step. That's why the trap is so powerful. It convinces you of two lies, that your small step doesn't matter, and that the big dream is too far away. Together, those lies freeze your progress. But here's the truth. Small is not the end. Small is the beginning. Small is the seed that grows into something mighty. A single dollar saved is not about wealth. It's about proving to yourself that you can control money. A single workout is not about transformation. It's about proving that your body responds to discipline. A single act of kindness is not about fixing everything. It's about proving you still care. The dream inspires you, but the small step changes you. That's why small steps are so critical. They build momentum, and momentum builds belief, and belief, once established, fuels more action. I'll tell you something. The world doesn't respond to what you say. The world responds to what you do. Words are cheap. Action is proof, and proof begins with small steps. That's why many people live in frustration. They keep talking about the dream. They post about it. They fantasize about it. But when life whispers, show me, they hesitate. And here's the tragedy. Hesitation kills dreams faster than failure ever could. Failure teaches. Failure builds resilience. Failure can be a stepping stone. But hesitation creates nothing. Hesitation is the silent thief of destiny. So the next time you catch yourself saying, one day, stop. Ask yourself, what is the first step I can take today? Not next week, not next year. Today, because if you don't escape the trap of dreamers, your dream will betray you. It will become the very source of your pain. Nothing is more heartbreaking than carrying a dream you never acted on. Remember, this big dream should inspire you, but small steps must define you. The dream shows you where you could go, but the step proves that you are willing to begin. Don't fall into the trap. Don't be the dreamer who never starts. Think of success like a ladder. At the top is the life you dream of, the wealth, the health, the influence, the freedom, but no one leaps from the ground to the top rung. You have to begin at the bottom. And the beautiful design of life is this. The first rung is always close enough to reach. That's not an accident. That's grace. That's design. Life never demands that you take the giant leap first. It simply asks you to begin with what you have, where you are, right now. The first step may feel small, even laughable. Saving $1, reading 10 pages, walking for 10 minutes, writing down one idea. It doesn't sound impressive. But here's the secret. The first step is never about impressing the world. The first step is about proving to yourself that movement is possible. Think of momentum. A train sitting still takes enormous power to budge even a single inch. But once it moves just 1 inch, it becomes easier to move another inch, and then another. Soon the momentum is carrying the train forward with unstoppable force. That's exactly how your life works. The hardest part is always the beginning. But once you move, once you start, momentum begins to serve you. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to start a workout, but how easy it is to keep going once you begin, or how hard it feels to sit down and write the first sentence? But once you do, the words start to flow. That's the law of the first step. Beginning creates motion, and motion creates emotion. I remember meeting people who told me they wanted to be wealthy. They wanted to build empires. But when I asked them, "How much have you saved so far?" the answer was always the same: "Nothing, but I will when I have more." That's the trap. They thought discipline comes after abundance. But it's the other way around. Abundance comes after discipline. If you cannot save $1 out of 100, you will never save 1,000 out of 10,000. If you cannot manage small, you will never manage large. Life is testing you with the little things to see if you are ready for the big things. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't curse the little steps. That's where the miracle begins. Think about it. Every oak tree started as a tiny seed. Every skyscraper started as a blueprint. Every great journey began with one step. Greatness is not born fully grown, it is built brick by brick, decision by decision, step by step. What you must understand is this: the first step carries symbolic power. It is your declaration to life that you are serious. When you take that first step, even if no one sees it, the universe responds. You have shifted from wishing to working, from hoping to moving. And that shift in identity is everything. Maybe right now you feel stuck. Maybe your dream feels far away. The mountain looks too tall. The gap looks too wide. Don't try to leap the mountain in one bound. Just take the first step. If you want wealth, save $1. If you want wisdom, read 10 pages. If you want health, walk around the block. If you want love, say the kind word you've been holding back. The miracle is not in the step itself, it's in the momentum that follows. The first step breaks the cycle of inaction. The first step breaks the grip of fear. The first step tells your subconscious, we are moving forward now. That's why small is powerful, because small is doable. And what is doable is repeatable. And what is repeatable becomes unstoppable. So let me give you the challenge. Stop staring at the top of the ladder. Stop waiting for the giant leap. Stop postponing because the dream feels far. Start with the first rung. Reach for what is in front of you. Take the step that is available today. Because here's the truth. If you cannot master the first step, you will never reach the last. But if you take the first step, and then another, and then another, the distance between where you are and where you want to be shrinks with every move. Remember this law: the dream inspires you, but the first step defines you. So today, don't just dream, begin. Dreams give you direction. Small steps give you a beginning. But without discipline, none of it lasts. Discipline is the invisible bridge between imagination and accomplishment. It's the glue that holds your small steps together long enough for them to compound into something extraordinary. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's punishment. They think it's restriction. They imagine discipline as heavy chains that rob them of freedom. But here's the truth. Discipline is what creates freedom. Without discipline, you're a slave to moods, to appetites, to impulses. One day you feel motivated, the next you don't. One day you save money, the next you spend it all. One day you start a habit, the next you abandon it. That is not freedom, that is captivity. But with discipline, you become the master. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't negotiate with your excuses. Discipline simply says, do it. And when you live that way, you build habits that carry you forward, even on the days when motivation disappears. Here's a simple formula. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. You don't need to be motivated every day. Nobody is, but you do need to be disciplined every day. That's what separates the achievers from the dreamers. Think about money. Everyone says they want wealth, but wanting wealth doesn't create wealth. Saving a portion of every paycheck does. Investing wisely, even in small amounts, does. That requires discipline. Think about health. Everyone wants to be fit, but desire alone won't build muscle or burn fat. Showing up for workouts, choosing water over soda, sleeping instead of scrolling, that builds health. And that requires discipline. Think about wisdom. Everyone wants knowledge, but you don't get wiser by wishing. You get wiser by reading 10 pages a day, by journaling your lessons, by surrounding yourself with great minds. That's not about talent, it's about discipline. And here's the best part. Discipline compounds. Just like money earns interest, discipline builds momentum. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. Skip one workout, and it's easier to skip the next. But do one workout, and it's easier to do the next. That's the law of momentum. At first, discipline feels uncomfortable. Starting a new habit feels awkward. Saving money feels restrictive. Waking up early feels painful. But stay with it, and something shifts. Discipline transforms from an enemy into a friend. It begins to serve you. Habits lock into place. What once felt heavy becomes automatic. Imagine the freedom of having discipline on autopilot. You wake up and exercise, not because you fight yourself every morning, but because it's who you are now. You save and invest, not because you debate it, but because it's natural to you. You read and learn not because it's hard, but because it's habit. That's the real power of discipline. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a man who dreamed of being a millionaire. He had the passion, the excitement, the big vision. Every time I asked him, "How much have you saved this month?" his answer was the same: "Nothing, but I will when I make more." That was his mistake. He believed abundance comes before discipline. But the truth is, abundance comes after discipline. If you cannot manage a little, life will never trust you with a lot. If you can't save $1 out of 100, you won't save 1,000 out of 10,000. The small disciplines are life's test. Pass them, and life will give you more. Fail them, and life will hold you back. Understand, this discipline is not just about results. It builds character, and character is what sustains you when times get hard. Because the road will get hard. There will be days you don't feel like showing up. There will be nights when progress seems invisible. That's when discipline whispers, "Do it anyway." And here's the secret. When you obey that voice of discipline, especially when you don't feel like it, you grow stronger inside. You prove to yourself that you are in control, not your moods, not your laziness, not your fear. That is how discipline transforms you, step by step, choice by choice, action by action, until one day you realize you are no longer the person who quits. You are the person who continues. So, remember this, the dream inspires you. The small steps move you, but only discipline guarantees that you arrive. Discipline is not the enemy. Discipline is your greatest ally. It's the bridge between what you imagine and what you achieve. Discipline is the engine, but time is the soil where everything grows. You can have the biggest dream. You can take the first small step. You can even practice discipline every day. But without time, none of it matures. Without time, seeds don't grow. Without time, discipline doesn't compound. Without time, greatness never takes root. Here's the truth. Time is not neutral. It will either multiply your discipline or it will multiply your neglect. Think about health. If you exercise today, nothing dramatic happens. No instant six-pack, no radical transformation. But repeat that discipline over weeks, months, and years, and the results are undeniable. Stronger muscles, more energy, a body that can carry you through life. Now think about neglect. If you skip the workout today, nothing dramatic happens either. No instant collapse, no obvious loss. But repeat that neglect over weeks, months, and years, and the results are also undeniable. Weakness, fatigue, a body that breaks down before its time. Do you see it? Time multiplies everything. Time is the great magnifier. Most people get this wrong. They overestimate what they can do in a week, and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. They expect overnight success, and when it doesn't happen, they quit. They fail not because the dream was impossible, but because they didn't give time enough space to work its magic. Think of the farmer. He plants in the spring, tends in the summer, harvests in the fall, and rests in the winter. That's the rhythm of life. He doesn't plant today and expect fruit tomorrow. He respects the seasons. He trusts the process. He gives time room to multiply his labor. Your life works the same way. You can't plant a dream in the morning and expect to harvest it by evening. You can't read one book and expect to become wise. You can't save $1 and expect to become wealthy. But if you keep planting, if you keep saving, and if you keep learning, time will compound your small actions into extraordinary results. Let's make this practical. Suppose you read just 10 pages a day. That doesn't sound like much. But in 1 year, that's more than 3,000 pages. That's about a dozen good books, and a dozen good books can reshape your entire philosophy, your decisions, your destiny. Or take money. Suppose you save just $5 a day. That's $150 a month. That's $1,800 a year. Add interest. Add consistency. And in 10 years, you're staring at tens of thousands of dollars, all from skipping one coffee a day. That's the power of time plus discipline. But here's the warning: neglect compounds too. Eat poorly every day, and time will magnify it. Waste money every day, and time will magnify it. Delay action every day, and time will magnify it. Time doesn't stop for anyone. It doesn't pause to let you catch up. It keeps moving, multiplying whatever you feed it. That's why the most dangerous phrase in the world is, "I'll start tomorrow." Because tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And before long, 10 years have passed, and you're in the same place, except older. Here's the question you must ask yourself 5 years from now. Where will you be? The answer is simple. You will be in one of two places. You will either be 5 years ahead stronger, wealthier, wiser, or you will be exactly where you are now, only with less time to change it. Time is going to pass anyway. The only choice you have is what it multiplies. This is why patience is not weakness. It is power. When you combine patience with discipline, you create momentum that nothing can stop. You understand that every small step counts, because over time, those steps stack into a staircase that lifts you to heights you never imagined. So don't despise the waiting. Don't curse the delay. Don't kid because results seem slow. Progress is invisible before it is undeniable. The seed is growing underground long before it breaks the surface. The results are building in silence long before the world notices. Time is not your enemy. Time is your ally if you feed it with discipline. So remember, this discipline builds the habit, but time reveals the harvest. If you stay steady, if you stay consistent, if you stay faithful to your dream, time will multiply your effort and deliver you a life you can't yet imagine. If discipline is the bridge and time is the soil, then habits are the seeds you plant again and again until they grow into forests. Think about it. A habit is nothing more than a small step repeated, one action done consistently until it becomes automatic. And once it's automatic, it begins to shape your life without you even realizing it. That's why habits are so powerful. They quietly design your destiny. Take the habit of journaling. At first, it feels small, just writing a few lines a day. Maybe a thought, a leçon, a quote that inspired you. It doesn't look like much, but over years, that simple habit becomes a treasure chest of insights, a map of your growth, a record of wisdom you can draw from. Now think of the opposite. A man develops the habit of stopping for one drink after work. Just one. Small. Harmless. Forgettable. But one becomes two. Two becomes three. And soon, it's not a habit that builds. It's a habit that destroys. His health declines. His money evaporates. His relationships collapse. Do you see the principle? Small steps repeated lead you up or they drag you down. This is why you must guard your habits as if your life depends on them, because it does. Success and failure are not one-time events. They are processes. Success is the result of disciplines repeated daily. Failure is the result of neglects repeated daily. Both are easy. Both are possible. The direction is your choice. Here's the law. You don't decide your future. You decide your habits, and your habit decide your future. Most people think success comes from big, dramatic changes. They wait for a breakthrough, a miracle, a sudden shift. But the truth is, success comes quietly through habits. 10 pages read every day. $5 saved every day. One workout completed every day. One kind word spoken every day. Over time, those habits shape who you become. Think about health. One decision to eat a salad won't change your life. But the habit of choosing water over soda, of walking instead of sitting, of sleeping instead of scrolling, that changes everything. Think about wealth. One decision to save won't make you rich, but the habit of saving a portion of every paycheck, the habit of living below your means, the habit of investing consistently that builds financial freedom. Think about relationships. One conversation won't fix everything, but the habit of showing appreciation, the habit of listening deeply, the habit of giving time that builds connection, love, and trust. Habits are not glamorous. Habits are not dramatic. But habits are the most powerful force in shaping a life. Here's the challenge. Bad habits are easy to form and hard to live with. Good habits are hard to form but easy to live with. Neglect feels easier in the moment, but it creates pain in the long run. Discipline feels harder in the moment, but it creates freedom in the long run. So the question is, which pain will you choose? The pain of discipline or the pain of regret? The key is to start small. Don't try to change everything overnight. Start with one new discipline. Just one. Read 10 pages. Save $1. Walk 1 mile. Write 1 page. And repeat it day after day. Consistency is more powerful than intensity, because once you do something once, you can do it twice. Once you do it twice, you can do it 3 times. And soon, momentum takes over, the habit forms, and the habit forms you. Remember, these habits are autopilot. They are the invisible script running your life. If you don't intentionally design them, they will design you. So here's the challenge. Look at your daily life. What are the small steps you are repeating? Are they lifting you higher or dragging you lower? Because every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. Guard your habits. Build them wisely, because habits don't just shape your days, they shape your destiny. If habits are the seeds of destiny, then responsibility is the soil in which they must grow. Without responsibility, even the best habits wither. With responsibility, even small beginnings can bloom into greatness. Let me be clear, your future is not in the hands of chance, luck, or circumstance. It is in your hands through the choices you accept and the responsibilities you claim. Far too many people spend their lives blaming the government, blaming their parents, blaming the boss, blaming the economy. They point outward, hoping to explain their failures. But here's the truth. Blaming robs you of power. Every time you shift responsibility to someone else, you hand over control of your own life. Think of it like this. If someone else is to blame, then someone else must fix it. But if you are responsible, then you can change it. Responsibility is power disguised as duty. Look at the stories of every great leader, every successful entrepreneur, every man and woman who built something meaningful. They didn't wait for the world to hand them perfect conditions. They looked at what they had, where they were, and they said, this is my life. This is my choice. This is my responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden, it's liberation. Because when you own your choices, you no longer have to wait for permission. You no longer have to hope circumstances improve. You can act. You can change. You can move forward. Take financial freedom. For example, many people complain about their paycheck. their expenses, their lack of opportunity. But the man who takes responsibility says, I will live within my means. I will educate myself about money. I will build multiple streams of income. He doesn't wait for the lottery or a miracle raise. He takes responsibility, and by doing so, he takes control. Or consider relationships. It's easy to say, they don't love me enough. They don't understand me. They don't support me. But responsibility asks, am I showing love? Am I seeking understanding? Am I giving support? Because the only behavior you can truly control is your own, even in failure. Responsibility is the turning point. When you fail and blame others, the lesson is lost. But when you fail and say, this is on me, and I can do better, suddenly failure becomes your greatest teacher. Responsibility transforms defeat into development. Now, responsibility doesn't mean guilt. It doesn't mean you caused every bad thing in your life. There are forces beyond your control storms. Betrayals, accidents. But here's the secret. Responsibility is not about controlling what happens. It's about controlling how you respond. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, said this between stimulus and response. There is a space, and in that space lies our freedom and our growth. That space is responsibility. It's the ability to choose how you will act, even when life is unfair, even when the pain is real. That is why responsibility is the foundation of maturity. Children point fingers. Adults point inward. Children say, it's not my fault. Leaders say, I will find a way. And here's the empowering truth. The moment you fully accept responsibility, you stop being a victim. You become the author of your story. You stop reacting to life, and you start creating life. Ask yourself, in what areas of my life am I still blaming? Where am I waiting for someone else to change? And what would happen if I decided today to own it instead? Because the law is simple. Until you take responsibility, you cannot change. But once you do, there is nothing you cannot change. So I leave you with this challenge. Stand up. Own your past without excuse. Own your present without complaint. Own your future without fear. Because the moment you do, you unlock a power. Most people never touch the power of responsibility. And with that power, you can design your destiny. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a week and underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. Why? Because they fail to understand one of life's greatest multipliers, the compound effect of small steps. Think about how compound interest works in finance. You put away a single dollar, then another, and another. At first, it seems insignificant, just a few coins saved instead of spent. But over time, those dollars earn interest. Then the interest earns interest. And suddenly the numbers are no longer small. What looked ordinary in the beginning becomes extraordinary in the end. Life works the same way with habits, disciplines, and daily actions. On a push-up won't transform your body. One kind word won't fix a broken relationship. One day of saving won't make you wealthy. But repeat those small steps long enough, and they begin to stack. The invisible becomes visible. The minor becomes major. And the ordinary becomes extraordinary. This is the law of compounding. And it applies not only to money, but to every area of your life. Let's take health as an example. Imagine two people. The first one decides every day to drink soda with dinner. The second one chooses water. On day one, the difference is almost zero. After a week, still nothing noticeable. But fast forward a year, 5 years, 10 years, the first person may be struggling with energy, weight, and long-term health issues, while the second enjoys vitality, clear skin, and a stronger body. Both choices were small. Both were easy. But one direction multiplied into decline, while the other multiplied into strength. That's the secret many people miss. Small steps never stay small. They either compound upward toward success or downward toward failure. There is no neutral ground. Every day, you are either adding deposits into the bank of discipline or withdrawals into the account of neglect. And the scary part, both are invisible at first. Skipping the gym once doesn't ruin your health. Eating junk food once doesn't make you sick. Ignoring your savings once doesn't make you broke. But let those small neglects pile up, and one day they arrive with a vengeance. On the other hand, now think about reading just 10 pages a day. It doesn't sound like much, does it? 10 pages can be read in 15 minutes, but over a year, that's more than 3,000 pages, roughly 12 solid books. 12 books filled with wisdom, strategies, and ideas that can completely reshape how you think, how you earn, and how you live. Do that for 5 years and you've consumed 60 life-changing books. People might look at you and say, "You're lucky to be so wise, so knowledgeable," but it wasn't luck. It was the compounding of 10 pages a day. No. Here's where the compound effect gets magical momentum. At the beginning, small steps feel slow and boring. Results are invisible. You save money, but your account balance still looks tiny. You work out, but your body doesn't change overnight. You speak kindly, but your relationship still feels fragile. That's the testing ground. Most people quit there because they expect fireworks instantly, but if you stay steady, something begins to shift. Your progress starts to accumulate, your results start to show, and suddenly momentum begins working for you instead of against you. Momentum is powerful because it multiplies effort. Once you've saved your first $1,000, the next $1,000 is easier. Once you've lost your first 10 pounds, the next 10 come faster. Once you've built trust in a relationship through dozens of small acts, loyalty grows automatically. Momentum is the invisible hand that accelerates your journey, but you only get it by starting small and staying consistent. Let me give you a story. A young man once told me, "I don't want to spend 5 years building this business. That's too long." I asked him, "How old will you be in 5 years if you don't build it?" he said. "Well, the same age." Exactly. The years are going to pass anyway. The only question is, will they pass with compounding progress or compounding regret 5 years from now? You could be standing in the same place or 5 years ahead. And it all depends on the tiny steps you choose today. That's why discipline is so critical. Discipline is what connects today's small steps with tomorrow's massive results. Without discipline, you stop before the compounding kicks in. With discipline, you stay long enough to let time multiply your effort, and when time begins to work with you instead of against you, the results feel almost unfair. People call it overnight success, but they don't see the nights of persistence that stacked up. They see the harvest, but they didn't see the planting. So ask yourself, what's one small step you can take today that, if repeated for the next 5 years, would completely transform your life? Is it saving $5 a day, reading 10 pages, writing down your goals, meditating for 5 minutes, whatever it is? Don't despise its smallness. Don't underestimate its power, because in time, the compound effect will magnify it into something that shocks even you. Dream big. Yes, hold on to the vision of a future worth fighting for. But never forget this truth: the dream will only come alive through the daily disciplines, the small steps, and the compound effect of consistency. That's where the miracle begins. History is filled with people who started with nothing but a dream, and then took small steps until the world could no longer ignore them. We tend to admire the harvest of their success, but we often forget about the planting, the watering, and the long seasons of waiting. Every great story is built on small beginnings. And when you understand this truth, your own dream feels a lot more possible. Think about Thomas Edison, the man who gave us the electric light bulb. People often quote his genius, but what they forget is that Edison failed thousands of times before finally creating a bulb that worked. Each failure was not a waste, it was a small step forward. A piece of data that said, "Not this way." Imagine if he had quit after the first 100 tries, or even the first 1,000. The world would have been left in the dark. Edison's brilliance wasn't just his mind, it was his willingness to keep taking small steps, even when the results weren't immediate. Or consider Henry Ford. Before he revolutionized the automobile industry, he was just a young man tinkering with machines in a small workshop. He didn't have an empire. He didn't have millions of dollars. He had a dream of building a car that ordinary families could afford. Step by step, experiment by experiment, he moved closer to that dream. And eventually, the assembly line was born, an idea that forever changed the world. Ford's journey is proof that great transformations begin in humble workshops, not glittering boardrooms. Let's bring it closer to personal finance. Imagine a young woman who decides to save just $5 a day. At first, it feels meaningless. $5 can barely buy a coffee. But she stays consistent. 5 becomes 10. 10 becomes 20. And in time, she builds a financial foundation that gives her freedom others only dream about. Her wealth isn't built from one big win or a lottery ticket. It's built from small, steady steps that compound. That's the story of countless self-made millionaires, not sudden riches, but disciplined beginnings, even in relationships. The principle holds. Think of a marriage that thrives not because of one grand romantic gesture, but because of daily kindness. A husband who chooses to listen, a wife who chooses to encourage, a shared laugh, a handwritten note, a patient word. Each is small, almost invisible on its own, but stack them over years, and you have a love that's unshakable. Great relationships are not built in one moment. They are built through small steps, repeated faithfully. One of my favorite stories is about a young man who wanted to become a writer. He dreamed of publishing books that would inspire millions, but he didn't know where to start. Instead of waiting for inspiration, he committed to writing 1 page a day. Just one. Some days the page was good, other days not so much, but he kept going. After a year, he had over 300 pages, the length of a book. That one book became the beginning of a career that eventually reached millions of readers. His success was not born of sudden genius, but of daily discipline. And isn't that the same principle we see in athletes Michael Jordan? Before he became the legend, we know, was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if he had decided then that his dream wasn't worth pursuing, but instead of quitting, he practiced harder. He took small steps, an extra hour in the gym, an extra shot after practice. Over years, those extra steps created a foundation of skill and confidence that made him unstoppable. The point is simple. Greatness never begins great. It begins small. It begins in the unseen hours, in the uncelebrated moments, in the choices nobody applauds. And when those choices are repeated, they accumulate into something remarkable. The seed becomes the tree. The spark becomes the fire. The first step becomes the marathon. But here's the danger, because small beginnings don't look impressive. Most people despise them. They want to leap to the top of the ladder without climbing the rungs. They want the applause without the practice, the harvest without the planting. And when results don't come instantly, they give up. That's why the world is filled with abandoned dreams, dreams that died not because they were impossible, but because someone refused to take the small steps long enough. Your story doesn't need to be different. You don't have to wait for a big opportunity. You don't have to wait until everything is perfect. You can begin with what you have, where you are. One page, $1, one kind word, 1 mile walked. That's where every story of greatness begins. And here's the most powerful truth one day. When you've walked far enough, when you've repeated enough steps, the world will look at you and call you an overnight success. They won't see the mornings you woke up early, the nights you stayed disciplined, the small sacrifices you made. But you'll know it wasn't one big leap that changed your life. It was the 1,000 small steps that nobody else saw. So let these stories remind you, you don't need to be extraordinary to start. You only need to take the first step, and then another, and another. In time, your story of greatness will be written the same way, through small beginnings that grew into a legacy. At some point, you must ask yourself, why am I taking these small steps? Is it just for a little money in the bank? Is it just for a title, a house, or recognition? Or is it something greater? The truth is, the steps you take each day don't just shape your future. They shape the story that will outlive you. They create a legacy. And legacy is not about fame. It's not about statues or headlines. It's about the invisible impact you leave on the people around you and the generations that follow. Think of a parent who decides to change their financial habits, not just for themselves, but so their children will grow up with stability instead of struggle. Think of a teacher who reads one more book, learns one more lesson, and shares it with students who then go out and change the world. Think of a leader who chooses integrity in the small things, creating a ripple effect that influences everyone they touch. Those are legacies, and they're not built overnight. They're built step by step. Here's the secret. Legacy is never the result of a single giant leap. It is the accumulation of small disciplines, practiced faithfully over years. When you save $1, you're not just building wealth, you're modeling responsibility. When you read one book, you're not just gaining knowledge, you're planting wisdom that may inspire someone else. When you show up consistently, you're proving to yourself and to the world that greatness comes not from flashes of brilliance, but from steady persistence. Let's make this practical. Every small step you take creates a pattern. That pattern creates a reputation, and that reputation becomes your legacy. People may forget your possessions. They may forget your job title. But they will never forget how you lived the habits, the consistency, the disciplines. Now, here's the challenge. Will your small steps create a legacy of strength or a legacy of regret? Because remember, small steps work both ways. If you neglect, if you delay, if you cut corners day after day, that becomes your legacy too. The lazy step repeated becomes a lifetime of excuses. The dishonest step repeated becomes a lifetime of mistrust. Legacy is not optional. You are building one. Whether you realize it or not, the only question is what kind history shows us both sides. On one side, you have people like Nelson Mandela, who took step after step toward freedom and justice, even in the face of unimaginable hardship. His legacy wasn't built in the spotlight, it was built in the daily choices he made when nobody was watching. On the other side, you have people who squandered their talents, who let their small compromises destroy everything they could have become. The difference wasn't in their dreams, the difference was in their steps. And here's where faith enters the picture. Life often tests you. It makes the journey longer than you expected. It hides the reward behind years of effort. Why? Because a legacy isn't just about reaching success. It's about becoming someone worthy of success. The long journey shapes you. It humbles you. It strengthens you. Without the process, the prize would be empty. Let me give you an image. Imagine your life as a book. Every day you take a step. You write a sentence. Every week you take a step. You write a page. Every year you stay consistent. You complete a chapter, and when it's all said and done, those small sentences become a story, the story of who you were, what you stood for, and what you left behind. That story is your legacy. So how do you ensure your legacy is strong? It's simple. Decide on your vision. Start with your first step, and never despise the day of small beginnings. Guard your consistency. Honor your discipline. And remind yourself that time is not your enemy, it is your ally. Time multiplies every step you take. Time turns the invisible into the visible. Time transforms today's small act into tomorrow's permanent impact. The dream gives you the vision. The small steps give you progress. Discipline keeps you steady. Time compounds your results. But legacy, that's the reward. Legacy is when the steps you took not only changed your life, but inspired others to take steps of their own. That is why you cannot afford to quit, because your legacy is bigger than you. The way you live today will echo in the lives of others long after you're gone. Your children, your friends, your community, they are all watching, learning, and being influenced by the steps you take right now. So I challenge you, don't just dream big for yourself, dream big for the people who will come after you. Let your small steps be the seeds of something eternal. Let your discipline create a foundation that others can stand on. Let your journey remind the world that greatness is possible, not because of one giant leap, but because of daily faithfulness. One day, when you've climbed far enough, you'll look back at the path behind you, and you'll see not just your own footprints, but the footprints of those who followed your example. That is legacy. That is immortality. That is the gift of turning small steps into something eternal. So dream big. Begin small. Stay disciplined. Honor time. and build a legacy so powerful that long after you're gone, people will whisper your name with gratitude. And so, my friend, remember this: your dream is valid, your vision is powerful, and your future is waiting. But none of it will matter unless you decide right here and right now to take that first small step. Don't let your dream remain a fantasy. Don't let tomorrow steal what you can start today. The journey of 1,000 miles has always begun with one choice, one step, one action. And that action is yours to take. One day, you will look back and realize that the miracles of your life didn't begin with a leap, but with the courage to do something small and stay consistent with it. That's how ordinary men and women build extraordinary legacies. So here is my challenge to you. Watch your step. Is it saving your first dollar? Is it reading 10 pages? Is it picking up the phone and making that call? Whatever it is, take it today, because today is the seed of your tomorrow. If this message sparked something inside you, don't just walk away inspired. Walk away decided. Hit that like button if you believe in dreaming big. Subscribe to this channel if you're committed to building a legacy step by step. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that their dream is still alive, and that their miracle begins with one small step. Your future is waiting. Your destiny is waiting. And the world is waiting for the version of you that will only emerge if you begin now. So dream big, begin small, stay steady, and let your life shout to the world. It all started with one step,